Now, that potentially, a lot of them may potentially look at financial freedom. The two main ones, a lot of times, are the financial freedom and what they think is the time freedom. Um, those two. Now, which is not, those two combined are not the only things that are a part of true freedom. Now, for the most part, if I were to approach any entrepreneur, any business owner, and say, listen, I'd like you to take 42 days off, they'd probably be looking at me like, what are you, crazy? 42 days? You know what would happen in 42 days? Trust in yourself, trust in other people as well, trust in the divine, again, trust in your umami self. It's really about that, and trusting and coming to a point, with true freedom.
All right, well, welcome to the ET Project, where we're aiming today to delve into the pivotal theme of mastering your mindset as both a leader and an entrepreneur in this crazy business world we find ourselves in at the moment. So all of us, or I should say for all of us, I guess, having this profound understanding of how the mind works is so paramount. And so I'm really pleased to welcome today to our show Mr. Ken Attard. Ken is a mindset consultant, and together we're going to explore how cultivating a growth-oriented mindset can drive innovation, foster effective leadership, as well as maybe navigate a few complexities. So Ken, welcome to the ET Project. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Wayne. I truly am excited to be here. We've had a conversation ourselves previously, and like I said, I'm really excited to be here and to be able to share some what I believe is very valuable information for any entrepreneur wherever they are in their journey.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, as you know, our listener base are predominantly leaders. Now, some of those leaders, of course, are going to be entrepreneurial leaders, as you and I both are as well. So you've got a tall task, I have to say today, because you're going to help us unravel the critical importance of mindset, and provide a number of insights, as you suggested, that are going to help us as well as leaders, towards sustainable success. So it's a tall order, Ken, but given where we are today,
I'm up for it. I'm up for a challenge.
Before we get into too deep into the conversation, there's a few things we've spoken about before we hit record and in our previous conversation. The first is that you're sitting in Malta. Now, Malta just happens to be on my bucket list of locations where I must go before I say farewell to this physical presence. So what I'd love for you to do, if you don't mind, is put on your best tourist guide's cap and introduce this small slice of wonder for our audience about what is Malta, where is it, and what brings you there.
Yeah, so absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. It is many times has been described as, a gem in the Mediterranean. So we're bang in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. To give you an idea, let's say 60 miles south of Sicily. And like it literally is really, when you look at the map of the world, it's really like in the center. And I'm originally born in Canada. Yet my parents are both Maltese, and my dad decided to head back to Malta. I was 14 at the time. I think my dad decided he wanted to go where the sun shines 300 days a year. He wanted to get back. And, I've been here ever since. Like, I've been here for 45 years. So without a doubt, I love it. It's funny. It's a 120 square mile island, with a sister island that is actually called Gozo, which is actually half of that size. So it's about 60 square miles. And I like to get there as well. It's a tremendous way to get away, believe it or not, a quick ferry ride. It's amazing weather. There's a ton of culture, ton of history on the island. And, it's Mediterranean culture. So it is a bit of a slower pace than a lot of larger metropolitan cities. I'm not saying that the pace is, 100% slow. I think that's still up to the individual to make sure that happens, and we can delve into that as well. Yet it really is, to me, a magnificent place where I can call a friend up in 15 minutes, be at a cafe, sipping a cappuccino or an espresso and having a chat. And it's also in my world now, it's also a great place to work because since I can work from anywhere I want, sometimes I find myself at by the seaside, on my laptop doing some consulting or coaching, literally where someone considers would be like a dream holiday. That's sometimes I have
Stop
to
it.
remind myself
Stop
of
it.
that and go,
Stop it.
that's
Come
just
on.
pretty amazing.
Come on. That's enough. Enough of the rubbish. Come on. You can't work in that environment. That's not possible. Uh, Now, I also believe you speak Maltese.
I do.
Ah, very
I
nice.
do. And let me make this very clear because we talk about adapting and shifting. When I moved here when I was 14, I did not know Maltese. Although
Mm,
my parents were both Maltese, they had because we were in Canada, we were very adamant that I obviously learned the English language well, and so when I came here, that was one of the challenges that I did have to face, and I had to learn the Maltese. So I do. Although I must say that people do recognize that there is an accent there, even when I'm speaking in Maltese, so they'll know that, hey, where did you used to live or whatever it is. So, but I can speak it and understand it 100%.
I think I even made the comment that I don't pick up any accent. You've been there 45 years and I can't pick up any European accent whatsoever.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's pretty predominant. Like, I mean, it's just there. I think I mentioned this. My daughter who's 31 sometimes turns to me and says, isn't it time you like lost that accent? I go like, it's not me, man. It's there. It's ingrained.
It's incredible. All right, well let's jump into a little bit about career, I guess. You
Yeah.
started, well, maybe you started working in a factory, but you started your main career, I guess, in banking, and you were there
Yeah.
about 7 8 years.
Correct.
We all know that banking can be a really demanding environment. So the question that came to mind was, what sort of challenges did you face? Because first main job in a country where okay, it's somehow native, but it's not. What type of challenges did you encounter for that first role?
Well, believe it or not, I think one of the when I look back, I think one of the biggest challenges was potentially falling into the perception, because at the time, so we're going way back to 1985, and that was considered quite at the time, somewhat of a prestigious job here.
Mm,
So it was or somewhat of a cushy job in the sense that it was fairly well paid. You
mm,
had pretty good hours, and it could have been very easy to fall back or to into the perception that this is going to be forever.
okay.
This is the job forever, and which was pretty well the mindset of many people at that time.
Mm,
So when I look back, I think that was one of the challenges that I could have easily fell into. With regards to the job, one of the challenges that I found that made me actually move out was I just felt like there was more out there, and I just felt like it was a really slow progression. It was very much based at the time on seniority. So it was only, over a due course of period of time where you could move up the ladder, if you'd like to call it. And it just seemed to me that sort of like just got somewhat frustrating, I would say.
yeah.
The job per se, I enjoyed. I'll have to say one of the things that was a deterrent for me at the time was because we're going back so far that smoking was allowed in banks, and it just like I couldn't handle it. It really used to bother me at times. But challenges with regards to work, I can't say that were there huge challenges because I had like the language was there already then, and
Yeah.
but I think the thing that was I wanted to grow more. I wanted to really pursue other stuff that I thought was going to take me in a different direction.
Okay. Well, that's a great segue. I mean, you transitioned from banking into, I believe, retail selling, and you were there for
Not
several years.
retail, so actually wholesale selling first. I
Selling.
moved. I
Okay.
went in, into a company. Well, I was selling to retail outlets,
All right.
so it was wholesale. But yeah, I moved into sales. Moved with a company, a predominant company here. So they still are a predominant company here, and learned a ton. I spent 3 years with the company.
Mm.
And again, I came. It's fun. It's interesting because I came to another point where I said I didn't want to remain a sales rep. And
Yeah.
again, and I took a bit of a gamble. I remember when I moved from banking into this new job sales, I went to a lesser basic pay.
Yeah.
I went to a less basic pay, yet I knew I had the potential of commission. I knew it was a well-renowned company. So I said, the chances of me not being able to sell it all, I mean, it's going to be, I'd really have to be doing a really bad job,
Yeah.
and a car and this type of stuff. Yet I also moved at the time, taking that, let's say, risk, if you want to call it, or that leap of faith. At
Yeah.
the time, my wife at the time was actually pregnant as well. So there was a lot of change at that time. So moving into a new job, not being 100% certain how it's going to work out. And I spent 3 years there, but I came to a point, like I said, where I said, I wanted to move up again, potentially into a sales manager job, and then
Mm.
potentially move up within the company. I just didn't see those opportunities happening. I just saw doors within the company being closed at the time.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend of mine who had a small company, who contacted me and had an opportunity where I could move into something. I was still going to be in sales, but it was a much smaller company. It was just literally building it up. So I
Mm.
was going to be much more heavily involved. And then eventually with that company, became a director of the company as well, and continued on sales and learning other aspects of entrepreneurship, if you'd like to say, as well.
Yeah.
And that's how I moved out of that sales job, and then remained with this other company until I actually moved into what you just mentioned was retail sales. I had a couple of shops then as well.
Okay.
I moved into that.
Wonderful. You mentioned that, the selling role, you learned so much in it. I'm curious, what is it that you took out of that experience? What are some of the things that have stayed with you?
Oh wow. I would say understanding more than ever how important it is to build relationships, to understand about rapport building, understand about sales as well, and how that functions and how that works. Although I bring it back nowadays more and more to those solid relationships, those building those relationships, gaining that trust, without a doubt. And then, when I started to learn, when I was more heavily involved in this smaller company, I was learning about, forecasts and budgeting and, importation at the time, because we were bringing in some products and this
Mm.
type of stuff as well. So, those were a lot of, and the responsibility, the responsibility and the accountability, that we have to, whatever we're building, and ultimately to ourselves. I think this
Mm.
is very key as well for anybody listening here. And when we talk about mindset, is the accountability with yourself,
Yeah.
and being willing to be honest with yourself,
Mm.
to and look at, where you are and where you want to go. So these were all aspects that I learned throughout that. Also learned a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do. I saw things that I said, wow, this is stuff I really don't want to do. I learned what not to do as well. So that was really cool as well.
Yeah. What you then move into retail and you start buying, or opening shops yourself. What was the
Yeah.
catalyst though? So how did you get to that point of saying, you know what, I'm enjoying the sales, but it's still not just enough for me for whatever reason? What was there a
Yeah.
tipping point?
Yes, there definitely was a tipping point. So I was involved in the sales, and within that company itself as well. Um, I was involved in a retail shop within that company as well.
Mm.
And so I had learned a lot about that business. And and the tipping point for me was, as I was saying before, there were a few things that I was seeing that I didn't like and the way they were being done within the company,
Right.
that didn't resonate with me. If I look back, and again, at that point in time, I wasn't delving into personal development the way I did a few years later. Yet, looking back, I can see how my values, that certain values were being compromised within that company. And that was the catalyst to me for me to say, you know what, I got to move out and I got to do something completely on my own.
Okay.
So that was definitely the catalyst.
And you did that to the T, where you start your own businesses, but not just one. You actually opened several shops, if I understood correctly, over a 6 year period or something.
Yeah, exactly. I opened basically opened three shops over a period of about 6 years exactly,
Right.
which again learned a lot. And I also look back and I understand what potentially I did that was not correct and opening so quickly because essentially when I look at it, I know that I was undercapitalized at that point in time. And this is what was a bit of a was a bit of created a bit of a challenge without a doubt, amongst many other things. As I had mentioned to you, I had opened my first shop in August 2000. It was a great year. It was a phenomenal year, for that. It was a souvenir shop, and
Okay.
had a great turnover. I was really happy with how things were going. I began to employ some people. So rather than being in the shop all the time myself, I was able to employ people as well to be there. And then 2001, we were hit with Twin Towers,
Mm.
which changed travel completely, changed tourism, at least for a while, completely. And again, this is where I started to learn about adapting and pivoting. And by that time, I had started to delve into personal development,
Okay.
which which helped me to get through that period of time without a
Mm.
doubt, to shift things.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. It must have been a lot of learning happening on the spot very quickly during that negative period in the world with Twin Towers and everything that happened around that. You know, as you look back at that, is there anything that, apart from maybe opening too quickly or being undercapitalized, is there anything that you take away from that time that you still think, gosh, if I only had that hindsight now or back then, I would have done this?
Yeah, absolutely. There is something, and I think this is really important for entrepreneurs to understand as well. It's about attachment, in the sense that I look back and I know that potentially, because then I obviously ended up closing my shops. Well, there's one particular shop, the first shop that I had actually opened, which I consider sort of like, as being the entrepreneur or whatever you want to call this, this is my baby. I really wanted to, I want to make it and I wanted to survive and all this.
Yeah.
So there was a sense of attachment to that. So I actually hung on to that shop probably for 2 years more than I needed to hold on to it.
Mm.
And that's one of the big takeaways I took from there, is that when you look at something and you see that, okay, what can I do to make it work? And you do everything that you can to make it work, and it's still not working for some reason. You got to be willing to say, okay, I'm ready to let this go and
Yeah.
not be too attached to it, and say, okay, there's more stuff waiting for me. And to be able to release that energy so that the new energy can come in. Because I think what happens a lot of times is people hang on to that, and they're really just closing up the energy to allow new, really good energy to come in. So
Mm.
to me, that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from that period in time as well. And understanding that things do change,
Yeah.
and embracing that change rather than resisting it.
Mm. Well, that's a nice segue. We're not going to jump ahead to the adapting and pivoting, but I mean that's exactly what you now coach on and consult on. So there's a lot of first-hand experience that you're basing the guidance you
Absolutely.
yeah. You also mentioned personal development came into the picture towards the end of that period. And I know you and I spoke about network marketing.
Correct.
We both have had our own experiences in that. I wonder if you'd share a little bit about what network marketing meant for you at that time and what came out of it for you.
Yeah. Well, when I first got to know about it, like I look back, it's amazing. And again, there's a number of lessons in there when I look back in the sense of as well when it comes to timing, divine timing, or
Right.
perfect timing, whatever you would like to call it, is, when I look back, this was simply, I was introduced to network marketing really by chance. At the time, my daughter's music teacher asked if we would just attend this simple whatever presentation it was. And I look back and I go, it was that moment that I decided, because I said, why not? I was actually not, I was thinking of not going. And then we said, why not? What, there's nothing to lose really. So we
Yeah.
went and attended, and that moment meant that that's where my let's say my where I am today is simply because of that moment, because I decided to go for it, and because
Mm.
personal development was such a strong part of it.
Right.
Was such a strong part of it. And I started to listen to speakers, and I started to read books and start to learn more about personal development, and I was intrigued. I was truly intrigued, and I said, this is really cool stuff. And I said, how come they don't teach us this stuff in school? And it was the catalyst. It was the catalyst for me to get into personal development. And from there on, I just carried on. And 20 years later, I'm continuing to learn. And there's a lot I have learned, and there's so much more to learn. So it truly was a pivotal moment. When I look at that, that was a pivotal moment that it just got me into the personal development world, and I got really excited about it. And I thought it was going to be, the network marketing was a great platform to develop those skills as well. I was in front of groups of people on a weekly basis, sometimes very large crowds. So I could be in my office almost on a weekly basis between 30 and 60 people doing presentations. And then we had the larger presentations sometimes in front of 400 people. So it was a great catalyst to that. And I feel very blessed that I got introduced in that way.
Mm.
And believe it or not, the music teacher today is actually one of my client family members as well.
Okay. Nice story. My own foray. I had two separate forays into network marketing. First with Amway, and the second with Herbalife. There's a number to the point on personal development. There's a number of really great lessons that I took away, and it sounds like you also. I mean, one of the areas that you really develop is your communication skills, and the other is relationship building. And you mentioned relationship building earlier in your career, but I think network marketing is so prevalent around those two areas that for that alone, it's
Yeah.
really worth exploring. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all based on, like, it's definitely based on trust and
Mm.
communication is like absolutely paramount. And a lot of times people are not even realizing, how they are potentially breaking rapport with people. It could be simply, it comes down to something as simple as, your tone of voice.
Right.
It's something as simple as the pace of your voice. And building relationships sometimes is as simple as finding something that is just in common between you and the other person.
Mm.
And believe it or not, it's actually, and a big lesson for me, when it comes to communication, because as you may have noticed, I do like to speak. I really have to be mindful and slow myself down and listen
Right.
and listen to what people are saying. for the most part, when it comes to even with relationships, if we're going to talk about that and
Mm,
building relationships and in the sales world and the entrepreneurial world, and I think this is paramount in the coaching industry as well and the
mm,
consulting industry, is that for the most part, individuals want to know that you actually are willing to listen and that you care,
mm,
that you actually care about what they're saying. So to be able to do that, it is imperative to develop those active listening skills where you're actually listening to a person. Let me listen to what they are actually saying, rather than already being prepared to talk about what you want to talk about,
mm,
already with a reply, simply because people tell you everything when they're talking. If you actually listen to their words, they tell you what they're scared of. They tell you what their biggest challenges are. They tell you what they love. They tell you everything about their life,
mm.
simply if you actually listen to them.
It's a very practiced skill, however. So,
It is, without a doubt, like anything else, really.
yeah,
Everything is practice, even when it comes to, my it really becomes a way of, with personal development, and it really becomes a way of life. You make it a part of your life that, you're learning every single day. Before we got on the call today, I was doing some listening, I was doing some reading. I make it a part of, and I think this is absolutely vital. I make it a part of my life every single day because I truly believe it is the key to moving forward and the key to having the success. And I know people determine success in many different ways. Having the success that I truly want, that I truly desire to have, that and to have it now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. You have a cousin back in Canada, excuse me,
Correct.
excuse me, who is in personal development, who's a trainer in personal development or some capacity, who you encouraged to come over to Malta, work together with you to build a program. How did the concept come about in the first place that you started thinking, okay, I like this so
Yeah,
much,
well,
I want to get into
yeah,
this space?
yeah, well, it was simply because I had this group of entrepreneurs in the personal development world, not in the personal, in the networking marketing world, and
Mm,
they wanted to be their own boss. They wanted to be entrepreneurs, yet the entrepreneurial mindset wasn't quite there. I was still in my infancy with learning with regards mindset as well,
mm,
and so and I was and I was encouraging people to learn more. I actually had contacted my cousin simply because I wanted her to get involved in the network part marketing part of it.
right.
We hadn't been in touch for a while, and I said, "Have you ever heard about this?" She said, "What would you like to know?" Because coincidentally, she actually had been a part of, I believe it was Amway as well, way back as well. So she knew about that whole. Lo and behold, I did not know that she was traveling around North America, actually doing teaching,
Mm,
personal development as well. So we had a discussion. I said, I was really excited about the possibility of being able to provide something more for the group of people that were in my team at that
mhm,
time, and which was growing. And so we discussed, and I asked her to come over. She put together a program. At the time was called Success Intensive, and that changed to 9 Principles of Personal Power. And I wasn't teaching at the time. I was learning. I was helping to sell the event at the time. So my sales
right.
skills sort of came into play. I was selling the events. And we carried on doing that for a number of years, probably a good almost 10 years, I would say, them coming back and forth, and developing a number of different events. And amongst them as well, I also learned NLP, and got my NLP certification and master practitioner as well, through her as well. She was a tremendous mentor for many years, for myself as well. And so I'm very grateful for that as well. So that's how that developed. And then, now I've sort of like, moved completely out on, on doing my own thing. I came to a point where I said, you know what, I'm ready. I got a message that is absolutely vital, I believe. And that's 2019 saw the catalyst of that. Call it divine intervention, because 2020 saw saw COVID hit, and from there I haven't looked back. I've continued to develop a couple of different programs and continuing to move forward, and here we are today.
Right. So you start your first retail business, and then we have 2001 and Twin Towers, and then you start into this new business, and then we have COVID. was it running through your mind, here we go again? Like,
Really well, actually, again, so they're a little bit different, because different in the sense of the last one with regards to COVID was actually a great catalyst for me.
yes.
More than a deterrent, because I actually said, you know what, I want to be in a position where, as much as possible, nothing outside of me can have an effect on my business. Now, just before COVID, my predominant business, I was doing some coaching, but my predominant business was still my promotional merchandise business, which obviously during COVID took a huge nosedive, which was expected. So it was actually a catalyst where I said, you know what, I'm definitely moving into this. And like I said, I'm ready. I had made the decision in end of 2019. This was just an extra catalyst. But I do remember the Twin Towers. And I think I had mentioned this to you. Like, I had a really great, like I said, between 2000 and 2001, had a great year. And I said, fantastic. This is really good. And when Twin Towers happened, I was like, not that I would have ever wanted it to happen, yet I did look up to the sky and say, could you have at least given me 5 years to really get a good stronghold? Yet again, it comes back to adapting and pivoting. And I can look back on my life and look at many, many moments in my life, as I'm sure many can, and say, okay, this was a pivotal moment in my life. I needed to make a change. Remember, I lived in Canada till I was 14. I played hockey. I played ice hockey. I came to an island that does not have ice. And that was a big change for me. You got adapt, you change, shift sports. I don't know, whatever you'd like to call it. Thankfully, I was pretty good at that. And again, these are pivotal moments, yet they are defining moments, even of character, I believe, and it's about moving forward and saying, okay, this is what it is. This is what it is. Okay, so now how can we make a move forward? Again, it's again, looking back, it's not about having that attachment, because if you're going to have that attachment to something, things will change, even when it comes to business, and even the way you conduct your business. Things are working really well today, and then all of a sudden something changes potentially in the world, in your industry, and you got to look at it and make some shifts. Even if we look at the coaching industry, look at what's being done online nowadays compared to 20 years ago, when everything was basically face to face or in person, right? It's a whole different world. For us people who are a little older, adapting to that technological world, sometimes can be a challenge. Now, you're either going to resist it, and it's just going to make it even worse for yourself more often than not, or you're going to say, okay, how can I go with this? How can I make the best of this? What can I learn? How can I move forward? How, and you learn, and it's a learning experience, and it's a learning curve. And this is why then you reach out to someone who can actually help you with that learning curve. I think that's one of the, even in the consulting and coaching industry, and I'm sure you can agree with this, Wayne, is that one of the things that we can help an individual with an entrepreneur with, is actually save time on the learning curve, because we've been there, we've done that, we wore the t-shirt, we get it, and we see certain perspectives that potentially you may not see yet. You will eventually at some point in time. So I think this is the adapting is definitely a key. It's one of my key pillars in my ARC method, without a doubt.
Right. Well, let's jump into your business now, Ken. I mean, we're at that point now, so maybe you can just introduce your business and what you're doing at the moment, and then we'll start to unpack some of the tools and the techniques and the methodology that you use when you work with your clients related to mindset?
Sure, absolutely. In a nutshell, I help frustrated entrepreneurs to adapt and pivot their mindset, and using what I call a proprietary ARC method, um, they are able to move towards what I like to call true freedom. Because what I have discovered over the years as well, and working with entrepreneurs, is that for the most part, when I ask entrepreneurs, why is it that they started their own business? What was the catalyst for them to start their own business? A lot of them simply wanted more freedom.
Mm.
Now, that potentially, a lot of them may potentially look at financial freedom. The two main ones a lot of times are the financial freedom and what they think is the time freedom. Those two. Now, which is not, those two combined are not the only things that are a part of true freedom. Yet many an entrepreneur, and some of those listening may be able to identify with this, go down a rabbit hole that finds them not having the financial freedom that they want yet, and also actually being totally absorbed with their time in their business. That they actually come back and say to me, they don't have time for anything else,
I
that
would
there's
say that
not enough time.
I think that's the majority, not the minority. I think
Absolutely.
as almost anyone that I know that's become an entrepreneur has had that comment. I started this because I wanted more freedom. I wanted more money. I wanted more time. I wanted the ability to choose my future. And here I am, 2 years into it, less time because I'm so consumed by everything that's happening around me in the business. And, the money's not generating, or the business is not generating the money I hoped it would at this stage. Right.
Yeah.
So, to your point, working with people that have been through that process, a coach, a consultant, is so invaluable for early phase or early stage entrepreneurs. That's my belief.
Yeah, absolutely. And the catch 22 that they may not be aware of is because let's say the money is not coming in the way they would like it yet, they think they have to work even harder so that they can generate that. And I'd like to let any entrepreneur off the hook in the sense that that is simply because that's the way you've been taught for the most part. For the most part, we still hear this nowadays. It not mesmerizes me, but it surprises me, how much we still hear about, the grind, the hustle, the massive action that you have to be taking all the time. Because if you're not taking the massive action all the time, you're missing out on this piece of the pie that someone else who's taking this massive action is going to take away from you. And it just, like I said, it surprises me how this is still taught quite a bit. Now, if all the experiences and the results that you are having in your life are a byproduct of your beliefs, then if you believe that you have to work hard to achieve, it has to be difficult, it has to be a struggle, it has to be suffering, it has to be stressful, then that's exactly the way it's going to be.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
exactly the way it's going to be, because it's not a matter of chasing the money. The money is not the end goal. It's there. Yet the money is a byproduct of how you are thinking, which is a product of your beliefs.
Yes.
And a belief, in simple terms, is simply a thought that you've thought over and over and over and over again. So if you're the entrepreneur who's still not bringing enough money and you are very focused on the fact that not enough money is coming in, and you keep telling yourself that, you're simply reinforcing that neural pathway that not enough money is coming in. And your mind, your brain, it's going to justify that. So you're going to continue to see not enough money coming in. So this is where the adapting, this is where the shifting comes in recognizing that there is a whole different perception available to you if you want it, if you want it.
Yeah. Before we get too deep into some of the tools, just to let the listener know, your company is Mindset Malta, and I
Correct?
believe you have a number of products like the Mindset Choice, the Inside Lane, and Cruising to Clarity. Do you just want to introduce those quickly, and then we'll get
Sure.
into
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I love it. So believe it or not, I actually started with the Inside Lane. The Inside Lane was, or it still is actually a 12-month program.
Mhm.
It's a 12-month program. And the Inside Lane is simply because it is all about the inside work. What, again, we're talking about the byproduct um, of, the results, the experiences that you're having are a reflection of what's going on the inside. So talking about
Right.
beliefs and how you're, so it's a reflection. So the Inside Lane is like a 12-month program, which involves, a video every week with a particular lesson, with home play. I like to call it home play. It is not homework. I think people have enough work to do. Let's call it play. Let's play a little more in our lives. I think this is really important to understand and have fun. Whether you're an entrepreneur, and everybody really is an entrepreneur, I consider, because we're in this business called life. So, everybody really and truly is an entrepreneur. And, and so every week there's a lesson, there's this home play, there's also one-to-one interaction. And so this is what, the Inside Lane is really, and I did it on purpose. I did a 12-month program because I want people to get long-term results. I think a lot of people think that, I don't know, let me exaggerate. You listen to one podcast and you've understood everything about mindset. I mean, it's an ongoing process, man. I've been delving for 20 years plus. I mean, it's an ongoing process. You're continuously learning. So this is why I wanted to do something that would go in depth, and the idea is to keep mindset top of mind every single week, not every single, as much as possible, keeping mindset. Okay, I've got another lesson this week. I've got another lesson this week. So it starts to involve consistency. It involves dedication. It involves repetition because that's how you learn as well. So it starts to delve into many of these things. So after I had created that, and then I decided that I wanted to create something that was a little shorter as well. Simply because I did recognize there are a lot of people, there's a lot of individuals out there, they're not willing to dedicate a full year.
Yes.
They're not willing. And nowadays, more than ever, sometimes we can't even dedicate a whole minute to watch a video. People get to, it's amazing. I keep hearing this, right? It used to be a minute and 30 seconds. Now it's gone down to a minute. Now it's gone down to 30 seconds. It's like, anyways, to capture people's attention. So I created a program, and this program actually came out of, besides the fact that I wanted to create something a little shorter, the Cruising to Clarity came about because I do what I call breakthrough sessions as well. Every so often I do breakthrough sessions. I offer a breakthrough session for individuals. And I literally sit down, like I actually do it. I do it for free. So I'll sit down with them. I just guarantee them that by the end of it, they're going to have a breakthrough. And I sit down with them between an hour and a half and 2 hours. I do this, and I limit it very much. Like I'll take only a certain amount every month, for instance, with a breakthrough session. It's a very limited amount, but I'll sit down with them. And what I noticed with these breakthrough sessions, there was a very common thread for many, and it was that they had ideas, they wanted to build something, they just didn't have the clarity on how to potentially move forward with it, especially when it came to understanding about their values, understanding about what a well-formed goal is. So I said, you know what, this is really interesting. There's a common thread here. I'm going to create a program about clarity. And the program on clarity is based on building blocks. So it's an 8-week program. Now, I say it's an 8-week program. I actually give people the option to spend a whole year going through it.
Mm.
Why did I do that? Because I want you to have fun doing it. I want you to enjoy the process of going through the program. The last thing I want to do is put even more pressure on you to have to go through this program in 8 weeks. And because I truly believe if you do it diligently, you're gonna want more time to do it. So again, it involves videos, it involves 8 building blocks, things like accessing your true freedom and keys to your success and decisions based on values. These are all different building blocks within the program. They have the home play as well, and there's written work to do as well. And again, they interact with me as well. Even those who choose to do it over a year, I'll interact with them one-to-one 4 times throughout the year. Again, so we're sitting down, we're looking at where they're going, where they're getting, where they feel they're still a bit stuck, if you'd like to say, and how we're going to move forward. And so that is another key program. And something that I really want to emphasize as well on for myself is I like to work with I'm not looking, in all honesty, I'm not looking to have thousands and thousands of clients. I'm looking to have a nice core of clients who really want to work together and want to work together long term so that both of us can grow together. So I can help you to grow together, and and we build up that relationship that we were talking about before, that trust, and so that we can continue to move forward together. So someone from cruising to clarity might decide, okay, listen, I want to move into the inside lane now. Now, this is how everything evolved. This is amazing how everything evolved when I'm really talking about this. How did the mindset choice come about? This is even shorter program. It's a shorter program. The mindset choice, the choice that changes everything came about again because I saw so many entrepreneurs, individuals who did not truly understand the power of mindset.
Mm.
So I put something together that was a short program for them. It's like there's about 2.5 hours of video in total.
Okay.
But I spread it out. I spread it out over like 8 days. Day zero, just giving people instructions on what to do and how they can interact, because I want people to engage and interact in the program as well, so they can actually interact with me as well, even though it's a recorded program. And I give them instructions, and then they have, day one is like a half-hour video, day two and day three the same, and then I give 4 bonus days, like 15 minutes each,
Mm.
delving in, and for them to understand how powerful mindset is. And I did this program completely free. So anybody who would like to engage in that program, they can do it 100% free. And I did this on purpose again, so that one can understand how powerful it truly is. Because I've seen so many people, they hear about mindset. Let's face it, the majority of people have heard about mindset in one way or another. Yet it gets pushed to the side. Gets pushed to the side. Something I call the triple U syndrome. The U being the letter U. They underrate mindset, they underestimate mindset, and finally, because of that, they underutilize it.
Mm.
And again, letting people off the hook, it's simply because that's the way you have been taught, because you've been taught to take this massive action all the time. And it's all about taking action, taking action, taking action. I hate to disappoint those people out there. Actually, I'm quite excited to disappoint those people out there who are listening. It's not about action, 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 action. Action has its importance, but there's a significant difference between action and inspired action. And inspired action can save you a ton of time. And inspiration comes when you actually stay quiet.
Yeah.
It's
And you
simple.
have a formula. You have a formula, Ken, to this point, right? I came across your formula, the 1 times 365 equals 42.
Brilliant. Yes, I know. One times 365. Yeah, I actually I had put together a talk for that. I once had to do a 10-minute talk on that. A 10-minute talk is actually much more challenging than an hour. Yeah, one times 365 equals 42. And this is really, when I sort of like looked at this, I said, this is really cool. You know, so how do you get one times 365 equals 42? So we're talking about being quiet and staying quiet. It's one of the first things I actually have to work with an entrepreneur, is because a lot of entrepreneurs, they got great ideas and they're going and they're attempting to figure out how their business is going to thrive or survive, or and the mind is just going. It's going all the time. It's going 24/7. So even if they're attempting to take some sort of break, if you want to call it, they're still thinking, they're still going. So it is essential to quiet down. And why is it essential to quiet down? From, if we're going to look scientifically, it's really just slowing down your brain waves. So most people are in beta brain waves, which is, for us to have a conversation, that we're mostly in beta brain waves. We can slow those down to alpha, and then we can take them into theta and deltas when we're asleep. Yet why is that essential to slow it down? Because when we actually slow ourselves down, when you slow yourself down, you can allow yourself to receive. That's when you can actually receive. It's not about chasing inspiration or chasing ideas. It's about receiving, because all of those ideas and those solutions, they're all out there. They're in a frequency out there in the field. Call it whatever you'd like. So slowing yourself down is really important. So 1 times 365 equals 42. Well, if you were to actually take an hour a day for yourself, bit of quiet time, and again, it could be going to work out. It could be partially working out. Yet I'm talking about like quiet time where you take an hour where, there's no internet, there's no phones, there's no distractions. You're just like on your own quiet. Potentially in nature is a great way to do that as well, depending where you are in the world. Sometimes from places, it's very easy to get out into a forest very easily. Here, it's very easy to get down near the water very easily. So in taking that time, you take 1 hour a day for 365 days. That's 365 hours in a year. Now, the cool thing is 365 hours is the equivalent of 42 8-hour working days. Now, for the most part, if I were to approach any entrepreneur, any business owner, and say, listen, I'd like you to take 42 days off, they'd probably be looking at me like, what are you, crazy? 42 days? You know what would happen in 42 days if I was not around for 42 days? Yet you can spread it out by simply taking an hour a day. And I think this is something that, I see this as well. So you have entrepreneurs who will say, okay, I have this 1 week or this 2 weeks off this year. And now this is going to make up for the rest of the year. Well, this doesn't really create balance. And for the most part, what happens during that week or during that 2 weeks, they're still very much going on in their mind and focus and concerned what's going on in my business, what's going on. So how is this actually going to save you time by doing this? Because when you do stay quiet, as I said, that is the time when, boom, an idea comes to your head. Someone's name pops into your head. Hey, this would be a really good person to contact.
Yes.
And they're your next sale. They're your next client. Simply because you allowed yourself to receive it rather than chasing.
Yep.
And this is why this is so significantly important.
It's a great approach, Ken. I try and practice it myself. I wouldn't say I'm always successful.
Yeah.
I have a challenge for you right now, though, because we're getting very tight for time, and I'd love you to introduce the ARC method before we wrap up. So could you take a couple of minutes and just give an overview of what the ARC method's about?
Absolutely. And we've already covered a tiny bit already. So absolutely very good. So the ARC method, and I chose the ARC method simply because an ARC is one of the strongest structures in architecture as a foundation. And the ARC method is what I believe a truly strong foundation when it comes to mindset. And that's the reason I chose that name. It's based on 5 pillars, and these pillars underline every single program that I do. They will always underline every single program that I do. So whether it's the inside lane, whether it's the cruising to clarity, whether it's the mindset choice, it underlies it all. And it starts, the number one pillar is what we are doing right now here, is creating awareness. Everything starts from awareness. That's your learning. So when you are pushing mindset to the side, you are actually stopping yourself from becoming more aware of how powerful it is. So awareness is number one. Everything begins from awareness. What you don't know, you don't know. And what you do know sometimes is not actually the truth.
Mm.
So it's really important to continuously look at that awareness, continuously be learning. So that's the number one pillar. The number two pillar is adapting. Adapting is about change. We've spoken a lot about change. It's inevitable. Ironically, change is the only constant. It's the constant. Change is going to happen. So learning to how to embrace that change, learning how to, because of the awareness, you're going to have new epiphanies. And now you're going to say, hey, you know what? I always did this way. Now I have a different perception. Potentially, I could change things. I can adapt. I can do things differently. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar, which is right in the middle and is connected to everything as well, is alignment. Alignment is about inspiration, what we were just talking about. And you can make that happen every single day simply by taking that time, quiet time. Simply a really, easy thing for many people to do is first thing in the morning, show appreciation, whatever it is you can appreciate. What could you appreciate? So you can set the tone for the day. So you can align yourself, ground yourself so that you're in a stronger position connected to, call it whatever you'd like to call it. Call it the divine, call it source energy, call it the field. Personally, I've coined it the umami self. And I coined it the umami self because in the food world, umami is the definition of umami is the essence of deliciousness. When you eat something so beautiful, so delicious, you can't even describe it. So the umami self is the essence of the deliciousness of who you truly are, of who you truly are. So that's alignment. That's the third pillar. Fourth pillar is applying, which is not simply action, yet it is inspired action, and understanding more about inspired action and how that is actually going to make you more efficient, as we've already mentioned, which is going to save you a ton of time, this time that so many entrepreneurs are in search of having more time for their relationships, time for their hobbies, the things that they love doing, right? And I want to mention something about alignment as well. It's tapping into the fact that you can just have fun, enjoy your journey, because you're never going to have a joyful outcome by having a miserable journey. It's never going to happen, or it's going to take a real long time. So applying inspired action, and then the final one, which has been huge in my life as well, and continues to be, is allowing. And allowing is associated very much with trust.
Mm.
Trust in yourself, trust in other people as well, trust in the divine, again, trust in your umami self. It's really about that, and trusting and coming to a point, with true freedom. One of the key elements of true freedom is being able to accept what is going on, accepting everything. No longer, no longer worried about what other people are thinking and saying about you potentially, or what you believe people are saying and thinking about everything, and understanding, having true freedom, you come to a point where you realize, irrelevant of the results that you're obtaining right now, or not, irrelevant of what's going on in your life, your worthiness, who you truly are, is never compromised. It's never compromised. Before you actually come to that realization, it's very challenging to actually have that true freedom, because many people are concerned about, what are they thinking? And, do they think I'm a good enough entrepreneur or not? Are my business results enough to be considered, let's say, recognized in my field, or whatever it may be? Always concerned about what's going on with other people, and that you're never really free, because you're always thinking about what other people are, you think other people are thinking. So you're not letting yourself have that freedom to just conduct your business the way you want to conduct it, how you'd like to conduct it, how you feel is aligned with your values. Sometimes people are compromising their values just to satisfy other people's values.
Mm.
And that's just not freedom. So those are the 5 pillars that underline every single program that I have, in a nutshell.
Very good. You're a very fascinating individual, Ken, and I sense we're probably going to hear a lot more about you, whether it's on the island of Malta or it's somewhere around the world. I'm sure there's much more to come. Is there anything you're working on right at this moment?
Oh.
Books, new programs, retreats?
What I'm working on right now, there's 2 things, predominant things that I'm going to be working on this year for sure. There's a couple of live events that I'd like to do this year. Definitely here. I mean, that's going to be here locally. Retreats are in the near future as well. It's something else that is going to be, I believe, dear to my heart as well. This is sort of like an exclusive. Is I'm working on something that I'm actually calling the Quiet Time series. It's going to be a Quiet Time series, which are going to be a couple of audios, probably about 3 audios at first, accompanied with these audios are going to be sort of like a guided meditation affirmation. It's a mixture. One of them is actually going to be called My Daily Reminder.
Okay.
And it's something that someone can listen to, and there's going to be music with it as well. So I really want to make it something that someone can just listen to on a daily basis and just remind themselves. So I'm putting together this Quiet Time series that I'd like to have available this year. I'm not sure exactly when yet, because there's a couple of components that are being put together, but I do have I can say right now that I have 2 of the 3 um, written, and I've done like a test audio already, and now it's just about applying some of the music to it, and this type of stuff. So those are definitely that's something definitely that I'm working on this year as well, and I look forward to being able to offer as a separate product as well.
Where can people find you if they want to connect with you or follow what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. They could easily, if they want to get a hold of me by email, they can absolutely do that at ken@mindsetmalta.com. And if I could just interject here as well, if someone is interested in the Mindset Choice program, which is, like I said, completely free, they just have to go to growth for the number 4 entrepreneurs.com. And there they can get some more information about the program, about myself as well, and they can actually register for the program there and then on that page as well.
Fantastic. We'll put it all in the show notes anyway. I know you also
I
have an ebook
appreciate that.
that you can download, etc.
Yeah.
A very, very insightful conversation. Thanks, Ken. Final words of wisdom that you may like to share with our ET listener base?
Absolutely. I'll finish with this, and I actually like to finish a lot of my videos with this, and remind myself. And this is what I say to you. I said, first, enjoy your journey. It's all about enjoying and having fun throughout that journey. And when you can find the joy in that journey, irrespective of the results that are coming, and that's part of the freedom as well. And that's really what I consider true success as well, is when even when you're swaying through the difficult moments, you can still be enjoying it. And that takes
Mm.
practice like anything else. And then ultimately, what I like to say is this: remember to laugh a lot more, especially when you can laugh at yourself.
Mm.
That's
Great.
that would be the advice that I would give anybody who is considering, is already an entrepreneur, is in the pipeline, on their journey already. Remember to laugh a lot more. I think many are taking things way too serious. It's a very short time we are here, and it's really not worth not enjoying it. It just really doesn't make sense to me anymore. So remember to laugh every day, whether it is, at something small, and laugh at yourself. I find myself laughing at myself so many times it's not funny. That's my advice.
Thanks for that. We may have to connect daily, so I can get my daily dose of laughing together with you, and we'll see how it
Absolutely.
goes.
Cool. I
Okay,
like
well,
it.
thank you so much for being on the ET project. It's been great, and all the best for what you have planned for 2024.
Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, Wayne. Thanks a lot.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.